Okay, thank you very much, and thank everyone for participating today, a very historic day. And we're going to talk about both Sacramento and Washington, D.C. this evening. I'd like to start off by having the board of directors introduce themselves. First, Bob, and you're going to speak later about something real important, correct?
Yes, I am, Richard. So I'll just say hello now.
Okay. Next is Matt Epstein. Okay. Jules Fear.
Yeah, hi. My name is Jules Fear. Excuse me. I'm Vice President of the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. I was looking at my notes here. Anyway, I'd like to take just a moment to introduce to you Christy Vega. As probably everybody knows in this city, her dad passed away just recently. That's a sad occasion for the city, sad occasion for the family, and sad occasion for the association, because Ray Vega and Casa Vega and Christy have been such great friends of ours. And so I'd like Christy to take a few minutes, if she would, to talk about what happened and what else she wants to say.
Thank you, Jules, and hello to everybody. Yes, sadly, my father passed away on January 9th. It was very peaceful, and unfortunately, the hardest part about it was that we couldn't be with him. He was sick for years, so it wasn't completely unexpected. But that, you know, it happened. He got COVID from a worker in his house. It wasn't from outdoor dining. It was from somebody in his house. And unfortunately, he got it and it developed into COVID pneumonia. But he led a great life. He was 86 years old and he loved Casa Vega. It was his most beloved business that he's ever had. He loved the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. He loved Jules and Richard and Matt and coming to your meetings and being a part of it. And he loves the community of Sherman Oaks so much. And so my family is sad, but we're happy to carry on his legacy. And that's what I intend to do once we can get our restaurants in LA back up and running. We are going to open our doors and celebrate his life all year.
Thank you very much. I mean, I remember him many times coming up to me and saying, anything you need for Sherman Oaks, anything you need for the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. So we go back many, many, many years.
Yes,
with your father and Casa Vega restaurant.
He loved you all, and he really believed in supporting the community, and that's a restaurant's job to do, is support the community and the neighborhood that you're in. And I think it's really important. And he loved the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. I can't say it enough. And as an immigrant from Mexico, to have so much love for a little town in California, I think it says a lot.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you. Tom Glick. Can we see you, Tom? Hear you? Nope. Okay. Next up is John Eisen.
Hi. Hi, John Eisen. I'm a treasurer of the association.
Thank you. Maria, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Maria Calvin, and I'm the chair for the legislative committee.
And Nancy?
Hi, everyone. I'm Nancy Segoyan. I am the membership chair. And if I could just say a moment about how important membership is in SOHA. We are the only nonprofit, member-supported, volunteer-run community organization in Sherman Oaks. We're dedicated to preserving and protecting the quality of life here in Sherman Oaks. And we do the work we do through the support we receive from the community. So it's really important to become a member. If you are a member, we thank you. We appreciate your support. If you're here as a guest, we say welcome and we urge you to join. And you can go to our website and sign up there, which is soha914.com. Or you can email me if you have a question at joinsoha@sherman homeowners@gmail.com. So we thank you. We wish you Happy New Year, welcome you, and please share about SOHA because we depend on your support. Thank you.
Jay? Where is Jay?
I'm right here. Thank you, Richard. I'm Jay Weitzler. I am Secretary and Resident Troublemaker of the group. It's nice to have everybody here today.
And wait a minute, what about the Federation? What is the Federation?
The Hillside Federation.
And
The
you-
Hillside Federation represents all of the multitude. I don't know how many different organizations. It's 125 or something like that. Organizations in the hillside areas, in the burn areas, in Los Angeles. And actually, one of the things that's going on now, being studied now, is the Berggruen project, which is going a project that is supposed to go in the Sepulveda Pass and near the golf course up there. And we're looking very seriously into that because it constitutes an environmental risk and a fire danger as well. So we'll see what happens to that. But the Hillside Federation takes care of all the areas in the mountains.
Thank you. And next one, I want to bring up Congressman Brad Sherman, who has represented us for many, many years. And a very historic day, as I said earlier. And Congressman Sherman, what do you look forward to in the next 4 years?
Well, it's going to be hopefully less exciting than the last 4 years, but hopefully more meaningful. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Brad Sherman from America's best named city, Sherman Oaks. And it is good to be once again with the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. For the last couple of decades, my staff and I have argued, what is it that brings the large number of people to the meetings of the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association? Is it the tremendous free food from, say, Casa Vega? Or is it the exciting speeches from people like Bob Hertzberg and Brad Sherman? And so at the end of the evening, we'll count up how many people are on the Zoom just here with the speeches and compare that to how many people show up the first time we're able to meet in person. And I think at that point, we will have settled the argument. I thought when I came, when we scheduled this, that I'd be talking to you about the December COVID relief bill. There is some practical comments to make there. With me online here is Scott Abrams, who heads our Sherman Oaks office and runs our constituent service program. And so if you have an issue with any of the programs that the federal government has, including the ones I'm about to outline, you call Scott. He works very hard. He solves your problem. And I, Brad Sherman, take the credit. It's an outstanding system. The phone number is 818-501-9200. And if you don't have that phone number written down, you probably have it on a comb that I handed you at some point. As many of you know, I've handed out all the combs that I don't need throughout the West and South San Fernando Valley. When Scott has put up the phone number again, 818-501-9200. The new bill includes an extension of the extra unemployment insurance, but that is at $300 extra on top of regular unemployment insurance. And that extra $300 is also available to gig workers. The second thing in the bill is the stimulus payment. You should have gotten it. If you didn't, the best way to handle either that you didn't get the first stimulus payment or the second one, the $600 that was approved in December, is to simply fill out your tax return and claim it on that tax return and trigger a larger refund. Finally, there's the second round of PPP loans, the amount you can borrow, 2.5 months of payroll, unless you're a restaurant or a small hotel, then it's 3.5 months of payroll. So the first thing is to get the loan. The second thing is to take the steps to get the loan forgiven. And we can be of assistance in all that. While the state is administering the unemployment insurance, I know Bob Hertzberg will be with you next in a bit. The PPP loan is first you get the loan from a bank or credit union. We have some very good relationships there. And then you get the loan forgiven by working with that bank, but also the Small Business Administration. We can be helpful there. Now, I know that several of you have said, well, Brad, why don't you spend an hour talking and answering questions? And that's exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow, 7 p.m., telephone town hall, first full day of the Biden administration. And Scott is going to put up on the screen how to dial in at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Or you can just go to bradsherman.house.gov and click on town hall. That'll tell you not only how to participate in tomorrow's town hall, but you can also pose a question. Take some questions live from the floor and some that are pre-submitted. So if you want to pre-submit a question, that's what you do. You've probably heard that a few things have gone on here in Washington since we passed the big bill in December. On January 6th, I thought that the difficult part would be getting into the Capitol's defended perimeter area, an area that I've seen with checkpoints, with machine guns on occasion, with a level of security that I did not think would ever be breached. So I left for work early that morning and took a different route and saw just a few demonstrators and got into the complex. And at that point, I thought, okay, demonstrators will be yelling outside. We've got some exciting work inside. And the most exciting thing will happen when we're on the floor and there's a challenge as they go in alphabetical order, that the first challenge would be to the Arizona Electoral College votes. And the question was, how is Mike Pence going to handle that challenge? So I was on the floor to see him handle it just as he should. And then I went back to my office because they don't want us on the floor too much. They don't want too many of us together. There's COVID. So I go back to my office to turn on what I expect are going to be relatively predictable speeches. I know what Democrats are going to say. I know what Republicans are going to say. And then instead, they breached the perimeter. And we were told to shelter in place. I know that these demonstrators never came to my hallway in the Rayburn House office building, but we were told to stay silent, lock the door, and then I watch as there's tear gas in the rotunda, a spectacular room that I get to go to most work days, and then only kind of after was over did I realize how horrendous it was, with people carrying these plastic restraints that might be used to handcuff people, crowds yelling, "Hang Mike Pence," and "Where's Nancy?" In any case, order was restored, and then we resumed the regular work. There was a challenge to Arizona and to Pennsylvania. Had there not been this break-in, there would have been a couple other challenges. Each challenge takes about 3.5 hours to dispose of. And so we ended the day just when I thought we'd end the day, about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning the next day. So we got done what we were supposed to get done in the place we were supposed to get it done in just about the amount of time that I thought it would take to get done. Today, we saw the inauguration of the president. This was the smallest, and I've been to 7 of them, 7 inaugurations. This was the smallest and the biggest. It was the smallest because there were about 2,000 people there. In the past, I've seen 200,000 people there. And it was the biggest because it was the biggest change that our country has seen, perhaps since Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated. I'm sure you watched parts of it on television. I, having acquired some seniority, had a good seat to see it. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see some of the pictures. And it was a moving speech. The poet laureate was from Los Angeles, the youth poet laureate. And I think her comment was correct when she said, the country's not broken, it just hasn't been finished yet. So I look forward to to keeping in touch with everybody here. Hopefully you'll be on the telephone town hall. And what I haven't had a chance to do is cover what's Congress is likely to do in the future. There are summaries. As a matter of fact, we emailed out to everybody a summary of what Biden is proposing. Those of you who follow politics will know, of course, that President Biden, McConnell over in the Senate, Nancy Pelosi in the House, Schumer are going to play a role in this. What you may not focus on is that in terms of legislating over the next 2 years, the two very important people you may not have focused on is Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia. Democrats will not have 50 votes in the Senate without Manchin, and he is the most conservative Democrat. If the bill is too liberal for him, it's not getting through the Senate. The second very important person is the Senate parliamentarian, because there are arcane and frankly fuzzy rules to determine which bills in the Senate require 50 votes and which bills require 60 votes. And the ultimate determiner of where that bill stands is the Senate parliamentarian. Those bills that require 60 votes will not pass unless they are pretty broadly bipartisan. I don't think Democrats are going to be able to pick off a bare 10 senators among the Republicans. So that's the legislative environment we'll be in, whereas, of course, presidents have a lot of power without legislation through executive order, regulation, et cetera. You saw several major executive orders signed today, and you're going to see a lot more. And I will personally be pushing for the adoption of natural gas storage safety regulations, since I represent Porter Ranch, the site of the largest methane leak in the history of the world. So
the staff told me you have to leave at 7:30.
I do have to leave, and I thank you very much. And I know you're good. Your main speaker is Bob Hertzberg, and he'll give you a great presentation. And I'll be back with you in the spring. Thank you very much.
Okay, next, Andy Solomon, our Deputy City Attorney.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Solomon. I'll just wait for Bob to switch me over. I don't want to be good. Okay.
Yep,
Hi,
we're good.
I'm Andy Solomon. I'm from the City Attorney's Office. I'm your neighborhood prosecutor. It's kind of a tough act to follow, someone who was there on January 6th, but I'll just tell you briefly what I've been working on for the last month. What I typically do is I work with all agencies, all people from the community, everyone and anyone who's willing to work with me to solve the problems that typical prosecution doesn't solve. That doesn't mean I'm limited to prosecution. I find myself often kind of in the middle of disputes or issues that need just someone to help move things along through our government. So feel free to reach out to me. I may not be the problem solver ultimately, but I can lead you to that person or that entity.
How do we reach you?
The best way to reach me is my email, especially since we're all working remotely and sometimes I'm in the office, sometimes I'm home. My email address is Andy, A-N-D-Y, .Solomon. You can see it spelled here, but it's SOLIMAN at lacity.org.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to introduce Ryan Mahara. Ryan, are you there? If you could unmute yourself.
Yep, I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes. So
Okay,
you're the new deputy for our Assemblyman Adrien Nazarian.
Nice to switch.
Can you give us a brief summary of what your background and how we reach you?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that, Richard. So hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. My name is Ryan Ahari. I'm the newest field representative for Assemblymember Adrien Nazarian, who represents our wonderful Sherman Oaks in the 46th Assembly District. I'm very happy to be here. This is my second week on the job. A little bit about me. I have over a decade of political experience. Most recently, if you can see in the back, I have my Peace Corps flag up. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in the amazing country of Armenia for 1 year. And unfortunately, we were evacuated because of COVID. Before that, I worked for Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton and Congressman Connor Lamb. And then before that, I've worked in different campaigns. Josh Harder up in Stanislaus County, Northern California. I was one of his field organizers in 2018. So now I'm here as the Assemblymember's field representative, and I'm very happy to meet all of you. And I wanted to tell you all a couple of things. First off, I will put in the chat, but I want everyone to have my contact information. I have a very open door policy. If any of you ever want to get into contact with me on any issues, collaboration, questions, concerns, I'd be more than happy to hear anything you might be experiencing. But my name is Ryan Ahari, so my email is ryan.ahari. And my name is up there at asm.ca.gov. So I'll go ahead and put that in the chat, just make sure that everyone can have it. And I just wanted to say a couple of things. The Assembly member is doing a town hall with AARP. The Assembly member is the chair of the Aging and Long-Term Care Committee in the Assembly. So we'll be having that on February 2nd at 2 p.m. And the town hall with AARP has to do with financial abuse of the elderly. So we're going to be sending out a Zoom link. I'll make sure that you wonderful group of folks gets that link so you can join. And it will also be done in conjunction with Treasurer Fiona Ma. And the only thing I wanted to mention was that we are now back in session in the California Assembly. We came back into session last week. In normal years, we usually introduce about 30 bills, but because we are still in COVID in 2021, the Speaker of the Assembly has requested each legislative office to only introduce 13 bills. So we will be pushing our priority legislation forward in 2021. If any of you would like to give feedback in terms of what those priorities should be on top of what the Assembly member believes that we should push forward for our community, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you in terms of any ideas you have for bills, any legislation you think the Assembly member should introduce. I'm more than happy to hear about that. So again, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And I think that's it.
Okay, have you met Maria Calban yet from our group?
I haven't.
Oh, you're going to meet here. She has many ideas. And actually, why don't we put her up next? Maria, what do we have to look forward to in 2021?
Oh, I think a lot. But before I get into anything, I just want to take this time to introduce my committee, because we've worked together for the last 3 years, analyzing, dissecting, editing, and arguing every position we take and every letter we send out on behalf of the association. So I just wanted to introduce and thank Bob Anderson, Jay Weitzler, Tom Glick, Jeff Calvin, and Marshall Long. They're amazing people who give an enormous amount of their time and expertise to this committee and to our community. So this year, we're going to keep everybody informed on the bills that are coming out of Sacramento. We will explain the bills in our newsletter and post our position papers on our website, and reach out to you when we need you to help us by writing letters or making phone calls to our legislators. The legislative process is complicated. Our legislators are lobbied daily by powerful interest groups. And last year we formed a coalition of homeowner groups in hopes of making homeowners and renters have a voice in Sacramento. So we feel there are good planning practices that, if we applied, can solve our housing crisis without destroying our single family neighborhoods. So stay engaged with us. I will keep you informed on what's going on, and we'll fight together to try to make good, sensible decisions coming out of Sacramento.
Okay, Maria, one final thing. To new people on this webinar, what is the #1 problem that we're having vis-a-vis Sacramento in housing?
Well, affordable housing is the problem that we're having in California. And we feel there are ways to deal with affordable housing that does not have to destroy single family neighborhoods. And the bills that are coming out of Sacramento generally tend to open up neighborhoods without putting any affordable component to what's being passed. And we feel there's better ways of doing that. And
Why would the legislature do that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you very much. Okay, finally, Bob Anderson, what's happening in the state, in the county, and the city in 2 minutes or less?
Hi, everybody. This is Bob Anderson. I wanted to tell you that the redistricting has started, and there are actually, it's a huge effort. There are 3 commissions in the state. There's a state commission, and they're busily redistricting Congressman Sherman, Senator Hertzberg, and Assemblyman Nazarian's districts. Sherman Oaks is located pretty well in all those districts. We have a few complaints, but we should be good. There's a second commission at the county level, and they are redistricting the supervisor districts. And again, Sherman Oaks is pretty well located there, but we're watching them and giving recommendations. Our biggest efforts are focused on the third commission, which is the Los Angeles City Council Redistricting Commission. They have started meeting in November. I've attended 3 meetings so far, another one tomorrow night. We sent them a very long recommendations letter. We found out that Sherman Oaks got a little bit short end of the stick in 2011 redistricting, and the Valley also did. So we're working with other organizations to get back what we should have had in 2011. There's a good article in the Sherman Oaks newsletter this month, and there'll be a lot more coming out over the next few months. It will take about 6 months to 8 months to finish redistricting, as long as the census data comes out on time. It's already a bit late. We'll just keep our eyes on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next up is our main speaker, State Senator Bob Hertzberg, who has been our assembly member, especially when he was Speaker of the Assembly, no less. Has always been a friend of Sherman Oaks, a friend of the association, and now he's a state senator representing our area. And we want to find out from him what's happening in Sacramento that we should be aware of. So I'll turn it over to Senator Bob Hertzberg.
Thanks, Richard. And I think I know most folks that are a member of this organization for more than 30 years. Maybe, I don't know how long, it's been a long time. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on a presentation. I just want to highlight a couple of points and use the time to answer questions, because I know a lot of people have questions on the various issues pending in Sacramento that are important to you. First, Brad mentioned this issue about the tax. He's talking, I picked it up when I came in about taxes. I'm looking to do a bill that basically says if you get the PPP money, we'll forgive your state taxes, you know, so you don't have that tax problem to deal with that in the state, and that they're trying to deal with the federal, and just for people that got PPP money. 2, I'm actually up at the Capitol now, sitting in a hotel room, because I'm, you know, been here clustered down with the place surrounded by National Guard. It's a little overkill, but you know, everybody's worried about that. As to the things that count most to me, you know, I represent 1 million people, more than the member of Congress, twice as many as the assembly member, and 4 times as many almost as a city council person. But I try as hard as I can to do with community issues, things that affect people, even though, because most people have no idea what the state does. So what we've done because of the during the pandemic is we've taken literally my entire staff in Sacramento, the entire staff in LA, and focused like a laser beam on thousands and thousands of EDD cases, which has been just embarrassing and a disaster. But we're just trying to help folks one by one, and I'm really proud of the work that they've done. 2, when state programs come out, we're trying to get the word out to people, and we do that through serious means. Hannah, who's on the call right here, called 200 organizations in the San Fernando Valley to make sure that our folks in the Valley got ahead of the line on those business grants, not-for-profit groups that could get grants, let alone other members who did the similar kind of thing. Old school organizing, you know, making sure we take care of folks. And the last thing is, I just want to highlight is that we've done this, you know, normally politicians put out these mailers all the time, or these newsletters that are a bunch of press releases. What we do is we have everybody on the team calling people. What's going on? We want to do like a newspaper, if you will. what's happening, what's information. It's called Virus in the Valley. I don't know if anybody gets it. I assume a lot of people do. Kind of, where to get access to stuff, real pragmatic stuff, push like crazy on the PPP stuff early on, salt of the earth stuff that helps people. We have put out almost 10 million copies. And for a period of time, our open rate was bigger than the circulation of the daily news because people found it to be relevant to folks in what we're trying to do. So as Sacramento is often disconnected like Washington is, trying to really do the frontline stuff, with businesses and the stuff that is very, very challenging, but we're in that. So I got the note that I got was reopening of schools, opening of our economy, saving single family neighborhoods, which I know number one is, not number three. Maria. but I'm happy to answer and give you insights. I don't want to give you a big long speech. I just want you guys to tell me what you're thinking about, and I'll give you big long answers because you guys, anybody that work with me knows I give big long answers. So with that, ask away.
Okay, before I turn it over to Matt, one question that came in that was fascinating. This involves the vaccinations and the availability of the vaccine. The vaccine was given to the state around December 13th, about 5 weeks ago, okay? According to the New York Times, we are the 45th state.
44th, yeah.
Okay, as far as vaccinations. And that only 37% of the vaccine has been used that was given to California. We're 47th state in the country as far as using vaccine. It seems like a tragedy and people are dying daily. Why do we have this problem?
Honestly, it's really not defensible. What's happened has been that our government has decided to do what the federal government did. Federal government says we're going to give it to the state. State says we're going to give it to the counties. Some counties are doing extremely well. San Diego, when you look at their numbers, they're quite brilliant. LA County has been horrible. I've gotten stories, from people in the hospitals in the Valley have called me and says, we've got stuff and it's going to expire. It's insane. I got to tell you, we had a long call with the LA delegation in the county the other day. Personally, if it was me, 3 months ago, I would have created a vaccine czar, like a Schwarzkopf type person. I would have just blitzed everybody, taken it over by the state, even though you guys don't want local control because we gave it local control and look what we got. Look at the city of Los Angeles, how embarrassing this is, right? Or local control over homelessness or local control of the other stuff. And I would have taken it over. And that's what the president's going to do now. He's going to use FEMA. He's going to use the National Guard. He's going to put up tents. He's just going to roll over us and embarrass us. And so it's a fair observation. And we should have been at this months and months and months ago. And, I don't have an answer. We've been banging and screaming. And it's hard because here I am in the legislature. I'm one of the rat finks in government. I can scream at the top of my lungs. But the people are earnest people at the top of who are trying to do this, but you need organizers, old school organizers of what you got to do and making this stuff and getting it out to folks. And the last thing is there's a big debate of who goes first, who goes second. Now, LA County has actually said it's based upon 65 and a lot more people are showing up. So I think it'll get to better. I think Biden is going to blitzkrieg this thing in a huge way and overtake everything we've done. But it's been this approach of pass it to the locals and give local control. And every time we've done that, this is what we get. And there's been some counties that have been really, really good. A story, in some states that have been great. Somebody wrote an article and said, hey, I can get a vaccine tomorrow in Alaska. Friends of mine are telling me they're going to Florida, right? Or to Colorado. So welcome to local control, Maria. I want you to answer that question for me.
Okay. So a couple things. We have quite a few questions that have already been submitted. But for some reason, our Zoom call tonight is allowing folks to come in on the chat line. And the chat line, we do not check those for questions. So if the audience does have questions, please send them in on that other button to the left of the chat line, which is the Q&A, and that will actually come to me and Bob and Bob Anderson, and we can sort those questions and ask some of those questions. The second thing is I guarantee you I will not ask every question because we're not going to have the time. And I definitely will probably put the questions, if you signed up as anonymous, your question will probably not be asked unless it's at the very, very end. Also, we're doing things a little bit differently tonight. We're not going to be opening up for questions from the general audience, only because at our last Zoom meeting, we had some issues with that, with folks not being there and just a lot of gap time. So I'm going to paraphrase the questions that you guys do submit, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. So the first question, Bob, that we have is from Christy Vega. So Christy, you want to mute yourself and go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, on behalf of restaurants in LA and in California, we are in desperate need. The PPP is a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. It's 3 months of payroll for 10 months of lost sales. So my question to Senator Hertzberg is, as a state senator, will you advocate to pass the Restaurants Act, which is a bailout program under the HEROES Act, that would help restaurants recover some of these things, because we've taken such an unproportionate amount of the economic hit. And we have been one of the biggest businesses that have followed all the guidelines and have been, unfairly punitive. And I know that the local authorities were the first. LA County completely shut us down, and then obviously the state. But since the state of California caused such destruction on the restaurant industry, can we have an advocate in the Senate to get us that relief that we need? Because I've lost all faith in every government official in the United States.
Well, first of all, we're gonna have an exception that Matt Epstein's restaurant doesn't apply to. But look, I know that there's been a zillion people talking to me about various things on restaurants, and I, of course, have owned restaurants myself over the years, so I know the business pretty well. I just want you to know I lost every one of them. I never made any money. I'm not very good at it, but I understand the issues. And so I don't know exactly what the Restaurant Act says, so I'm not going to tell you I'm going to support it because I don't know exactly what it says. But the bottom line is, I really get it. I'm trying, I'm going to do everything humanly possible. The state doesn't have the ability, like the feds, to print money. I think Biden's going to get some of the money that he's asking for. I don't know what the damn number is, but a lot of it's going to come out. We're going to push out as much dough as we can. There's been a couple of things that we've done. I don't, if you know about this, like, when you have to collect sales tax, we said you can keep the first 50 grand for working capital. That's some money. Some of these grants are not loans, but they're money. The state's done another billion something. I believe more of that's going to come down the pipeline. I believe you're going to see a lot more of this stuff coming down the pike. There's a lot of us that really want to push for this. There's a really big element in the legislature want to push for it. So I think you're going to see a lot more relief for restaurants coming forward. And look, the challenge with restaurants, to be honest with you, is some restaurants don't make it, right? We all know the restaurant business. We want to support people that have legitimate businesses. We don't want to just put restaurants up that can lose. Right? It's a fundamental question. But restaurants also are like the critical element of community. It's where people get together. It's hugely important and all that type of stuff. So bottom line is, in Hertzberg, you have somebody who knows it, gets it. It's going to push like a son of a gun on it. Probably harder than I will on Maria's.
Well, the Restaurants Act has already passed the House of Representatives, and it's in the Congress right now. It's in the Senate, and it's.
I know, but I'm at the state level. I'm not the U.S.
Well, just if we could get more advocates coming out of LA.
Oh yeah, fine. That's easy. I'm happy you get a letter. I'll sign it.
And I think restaurants are down to 1 and 2 will survive. So it's not a matter of a failing business plan. It's a matter of the.
Oh, I know.
We're
I'm
down
just trying to give you an honest assessment. I get it. I just trying to give you an honest assessment of how I see it.
Thank you, Christy. Also, Bob, when you're advocating for the California restaurants too, the PPP 3.5 times payroll is okay, but it doesn't make any sense at all when you talk about states like Florida, whose restaurants have been open the entire time. They're also getting 3.5 times payroll. So the feds, a one size fits all doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Well, if you have any idea, Matt, of how to restructure that, give it to me and I'll pitch it. My mother called me on something. I gave an idea and I got it into the federal legislation.
Christy and I,
I took your last idea, huh?
We'll call your office tomorrow. We've got a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, and Hannah said if you need help, you can call. It's really pushing it hard. I want to be available to people, so don't worry about that. Go ahead.
Thank you. So the next question is from one of our folks in the audience, Stuart Rubin. Are you still in support? And by the way, Bob, these are not my questions, so don't blame me for asking these questions, okay?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna blame you. That's okay.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Are you still in support of sales tax on professional service charges such as accounting fees or accounting offices? If so, what is to stop clients from moving their work to out of state and then you guys get no fees?
Well, I'm not doing taxes now. We're in trouble. It's the last thing you want to do is to raise taxes now, in my judgment, whether they're professional taxes or any other kind of tax. That's number one. Number two is, I really like the idea of the service tax because here's the reason. Here's the reason why that question is wrong. This is what's called a consumption tax. Consumption tax means you have to consume the services today here in California. So if we're working on a business like my old law firm and we're working on a case in Chicago, well, there's no taxes. Or you're an architect and you're working on something in China, there's no tax because the consumption is occurring over some other place. If somebody else is coming to take advantage of the state, of which is about 20% of out-of-state people that are taking advantage of our system, we can tax them. Secondly, the idea was it would be just business to business, a small amount. So the idea that the simple sense is if you're going to deduct it, then it's taxable, but nothing's coming down now. You can't do that. It's just, we can't be doing that. We got to focus on economic recovery, getting people back, getting those restaurants open, getting those business on Ventura Boulevard open, and take care of folks and deal with the fundamentals. So yeah, it's an idea that I think is okay. Yeah, I think done properly could be intelligent, but I'm not doing it now.
Okay, so I just got a question on the Q&A side. Thank you for doing that instead of going onto the chat line. This is from Jim Go. Mr. Hertzberg, where do you stand with respect to lot splitting, placing 10-unit apartment buildings in the middle of single-family neighborhoods, and local zoning oversight versus state control?
I rely on Maria for that decision. I'm joking. Well, first of all, it's not 10 units. What happened was, this is where I want to get to this larger issue and take a little longer because I know it's so important to everybody. First of all, there's this big issue about at what point is the state government or the federal government should be involved versus local control. And there's a lot of issues where we jump in, like we should have done on the vaccine, or we did with Richard in 1978 on doing a statewide taxes instead of a county tax on property tax, or we do with water conservation and a whole host of things. And in this housing space, we have, since California's been growing, have been dealing with this issue like crazy, right? We have LAFCO Commission, of which Richard has been a part of for many years, local agency formation commissions. We have housing elements that are required, and local communities aren't building what they need to build. And so we have been grappling with this, trying to figure it out, right? Trying to figure it out. Where was SB 50? I'm the guy, and anybody who's in the game knows it, and the people in the assembly, who you can tell that Mr. Zerido, like, thank me for killing it in the Senate. I killed it in the Senate. That was 5 stories, a quarter of a mile from a bus station, was insane. So, and I mentioned this in an earlier meeting. What happened was this. We said, look, we got to come up with something on the housing stuff. I know there's some question as to how you guys see how many is it 1.1 million or 3.5, whatever the damn number is. We have a problem. And the problem isn't just affordable housing, it's housing stock generally. I'm going to mention something a little longer on that because I got a really important idea that I'm working on and I'm probably going to put on the ballot in 2022. And that is, you got to build stuff, man. We did the ADU bill. I think there's 18,000 units in LA. In LA from the ADU that have been permitted. I don't know how many have actually been built. It's like 8,000 in the valley or something like that have been interesting. And so what happened was that, we had like major anxiety among everybody. And quite frankly, LA County people, me and everybody else, stopped that SB 50. The question was, which was 5 stories, big stuff, could you come up with a compromise? The president pro tem of the Senate carried the bill, did the compromise. That was whatever bill number, the 1120 last year. And that basically said, you have to do a lot split, but the lot split has to be even in size. Look, I'm not going to get Maria's fight on this stuff because she deals in great detail. She's talked to Freddie at my office a million times and everybody else 100 times, let alone being in our office. But that thing, the idea behind that wasn't to kill off single families. We already have ADUs. It was allowed certain duplex to be built. At the end of the day, but it also says that the local design control, there's a whole bunch of elements in there that allow local government to participate in the deal. At the end of the day, it's your neighbor that's making the decision. this is the law that lets them do it. And the other bill, that other Wiener bill, that basically is a nothing burger bill. I know everybody's going crazy over it, but all it says is, look, local government can do this if it wants to pass an ordinance. So what does it do? It is a local control. It doesn't say anything other than allow a face saving on the deal. It doesn't give any authority. It says if locals want to do this, they can decide. So when you look at the issue of local control versus this, I think that these are reasonable compromises. I'm majority leader. If I've twice offered my resignation on other issues before. This is a pro tem's bill. I voted for it, clear and simple, and I fought like crazy and took cheat for killing the last one. So I'm trying to participate in reaching a compromise. I am still very sensitive to the issues you talk about. I personally think the idea of adaptive reuse, like we did downtown, and transit corridors and those things, are the low-hanging fruit. And what I want to do, quite frankly, this is my idea, and I'll take one more minute to tell you this. This whole damn thing we're doing with rental housing, and it doesn't relate to, is ridiculous. Why? Because most of the money we're spending in LA County and LA City, you can build Taj Mahal with all the money we're spending on that stuff. And they got 6 units at what they cost, and the numbers are embarrassing, right? So what ends up happening is we're spending all this money to make schlock. It takes forever to make it, and we get bupkas for all the Yiddish cops on the call. So the bottom line is, what I want to do, I want to build home ownership. I want to do home ownership. Because the biggest problem we're having here with this tension that we're seeing is this rich-poor divide. You see how rich are getting richer, poor getting poor. It creates all this tension on taxes and us versus them and social services. The way you get rid of the rich-poor divide is get rid of poor people. The way you get rid of poor people is make them rich. So if I can take and give you a down payment on your house and take a soft second, I'm secured for my second trustee. And when you sell it, I'll take 30% of the back end. I'll get my 100 grand back or 50 grand back, whatever the number is. We'll build condos and townhouses and infill and stuff. It's a third to 25% of the costs, and you get a home ownership. And home ownership fundamentally changes the game. So we're spending a lot less tax dollars, and we're creating a much better solution. And that's not for the homeless people on transitional housing and stuff. But to me, it solves a gigantic part of the larger problem, because the renters versus homeowners, and homeowners change up the game. So you're going to see me roll this stuff out. And I don't think I'm going to roll it out in the form of a bill at this point. My thinking is to put it in the ballot in 2022, and I've been talking to some folks about it. But I'm really focused on this issue of rich-poor divide. Here is.
Okay.
For a second, I don't go too long. Here's the draft of my book called Inflection Point. It's time to restore the social contract for California, and home ownership is a piece of this book.
Okay, Maria, you want to unmute yourself? You had a couple questions that I think you might want to piggyback on this.
Senator Hertzberg, actually my question was on SB 9 and 10. And the reason we oppose it is because when you lot split and you allow 4 units on each of those splits, it actually causes land speculation and makes a lot of people want to invest in those as land speculation. And therefore they can hold on to these units because the property values keep increasing because they can build more and more on these lots. So we're saying we're already allowing ADUs and junior ADUs, which helps have more sort of affordable housing. But the idea that you keep adding value to land only causes land speculation. I think that defeats the purpose of trying to do either affordable housing or allowing more people to own homes. So we support the bills that you build on commercial corridors, and we open up strip malls that aren't necessary today and can do all kinds of good for more housing, and the big box stuff. We've sent position papers supporting that. But we really need you to help us on bills that simply keep adding value to land, and they're held by land speculators just because that's for their portfolio. It's becomes.
Can I tell you something, Maria? I've been in conversations with, do you know Anthony Portantino from Pasadena? Yeah. We've had a lot of conversations on this, and I can't remember if we put this in the bill or not, but we're going to. on this issue, because he's really concerned, like for Burbank and stuff like that, where exact issue that you raise, that you can't be investor corporations for these properties, because what's happening, it loses the social fabric of a community. Part of that whole issue is the social fabric. So I support Portantino's efforts. He's the one who led it. It's a good idea, and I thought it was a smart thing. I don't know, Hannah, if you could make a note, or if Freddie's on there, we'll talk about where it's at, but we talked about making sure that's the case to get to that issue. Now, that doesn't completely stop the speculation issue you talk about. I get that, but it is something that's important, where companies just come in, buy a house, see the lot, turn it into a big thing, and destroy the character of a neighborhood, right? So I'm with you on that. And secondly, look, I get it. I know how important this is. I know how important this is. You know, and everybody who's ever worked with me for the last 20 or 30 or 40 years on this stuff knows that I fight like hell, and I've done a hell of a lot of stuff for the Valley and bring us alive in 100 ways. And I'll do it, but this is a harder issue. I will continue to try to work at this stuff. I told you many years ago when you came in the office, come up with solutions. As the chairman of the budget committee, because the solutions, I'll continue to try to work on it. But look, I'm a straight up person. The pro tem does this bill, I'm going to have to vote for it. The only thing I can do is to try to help amend it in a way that makes it work better and more sensitive for our communities. I can't tell you I'm going to try, because I won't be able to roll her. You saw last time it came out of the Senate 39-0.
Yeah, but we've also sent ideas about amending that bill that would make it a whole lot less possible to use it as land speculation. And we sent that to Freddie, which, by the way, we love dealing with Freddie. He's a tremendous chief of staff in your office.
Okay, I'll take a look at it. I probably have it here. It's probably this document right here that he gave me. Just had a chance to read it, but I'll go through it. It's the thing that talks about the McKinsey study and stuff you sent him.
Yep, all that.
I got it. Okay.
It's great reading. You should read it tonight before you go to bed.
I have one other question. Can I ask it?
If Bob answers it quickly, yes, because we have other questions. Sorry, Maria.
Okay. So, Senator Hertzberg, a recent study by UCLA stated that the housing market is delivering unprecedented profits to a privileged class of investors who have bent the housing market to their interest. Rampant speculation has resulted in a housing system that works in the interest of a few to the detriment of the many. It reported that more than 93,000 units of housing were left vacant in LA. More than half were being used for investment and held off the market. Why doesn't Sacramento impose vacancy taxes used successfully in other cities to force vacant units back into the market before upzoning communities?
You start talking about that TAX word, everybody goes bazonkers. You know, you could say that, but it just makes everybody go crazy and want to leave the state. I'm doing studies now on who's leaving the state and stuff. Can you give us a copy of that report? Because I want to use it for my housing ownership thing. That's the exact message I'm making. We're sitting there using tax dollars to supplement creating all these units. They're keeping them off the market, playing this game. It costs us money. We're not solving the problem. But if I can do a down payment program where we do a bond on the ballot, and because when you put a down payment, you're not losing the money. It's just converting it from cash to a second trustee on a house. Now, the house can go upside down potentially, but the risk is a lot smaller. So end of question, because Matt said I can't take too long.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Bob. Also, well, never mind. I was going to go into the fact that I'm calling you Bob instead of Senator Hertzberg.
Bobby Hertzberg to you, mother.
No, we just got a little flack on the last call, on the last speaker, because we were calling the newly elected council person by her first name, and it was no disrespect, but we did get some folks that thought it was disrespectful. So,
hey,
again,
come on, man.
Just
don't call me butthead.
If you want me to call you Senator Hertzberg, I'll be happy to call you Senator Hertzberg.
No, it's against the law.
All right. The next question we have is from the audience. It's from Rudy Melendez. As a co-author of the no money bail legislation, which was overwhelmingly defeated in November, Proposition 25, do you, Bob, support George Gaston and his effort to get rid of money bail in the county?
I supported Jackie Lacey. I was a big supporter of Jackie's, just so you know, and I don't cut and run on my friends. And she's been a friend. She's a great person. Look, I'm doing a bill which is going to be introduced the next couple of days on money bail. You know, the reason my thing lost is that normally they play the, you know, law enforcement against civil libertarians. They played the cards against us by virtue of getting the NAACP to do ads against us and spent $6 million on those ads and created confusion. I don't think people like money bail in terms of how it works, because you can send somebody a text. If somebody's a big threat, keep them in jail. Somebody's not a threat, why spend the taxpayer dollars? So I'm doing a deal that takes the money out of the money bail system. I've read a memo that Freddie gave me on what he did, but I haven't drilled into what he is or isn't doing. But I'm doing something at the state to deal with money bail, because I think it's, you know, it's just gotten out of control. It's just out of control. And everywhere you look around the country, Chicago, Illinois just did it. You don't need to charge all these people to get them to come to court. And if you keep sending them texts, we show the recidivism rate goes down. I'm not talking about murders or rapists or the bad stuff. That's a different story. You know, those people need to be detained. But I'm talking about, for most folks, you don't need the system. And so I don't know what he says, but I'm still getting rid of it.
Okay.
I'm not stopping. I'm not letting go.
Thank you, Senator Hertzberg. The next question is from Yvette Chambers. Will you fight for medical freedom of choice?
What does that mean?
I don't know. I didn't. Will you fight for medical freedom of choice? I don't know.
Can somebody help me explain? I apologize. I don't understand the question. Is that vaccine stuff? I don't know what that is.
That's okay. Let's go on to the next one, which is a similar from William DAHLIN. What is being done to increase mental health hospital resources and expand conservatorship so we can prevent people with mental health problems from ending up in county jail or street? Yeah.
Well, we actually, one of the things I love Jackie Lacey is we did stuff every year on mental health stuff, and she was great on that. We've expanded the bejeebies out of the money. Steinberg, speaking of taxes, a millionaire's tax that's got like how many billions of dollars for mental health. And we've put a bunch more dough in. The governor did it in this budget. We're doing a bunch more. And we did a bill that we couldn't get through before with Henry Stern and a couple other people. For the people on the street dealing with conservatorship, you know, you've got this issue. It's very strict law, and we're trying to expand it to be able to allow to use it. So I think you're going to see some legislation, and I'm hoping it passes, to give government more authority on these conservatorships to deal with some of these mental health issues. So there's a huge amount more money coming in addition to stuff to help make that happen. And two, I think I'm hoping the conservatorship stuff happens. I know that we've had a lot of discussions about it.
Okay. The next question is from one of our board members, Tom Glick. Tom, do you want to unmute yourself if you can? I know you were.
I'm not taking a question.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Hi, Senator Bob. I'm sorry, if I start my video, I might glitch. So I'm going to stop video. Let me ask you, a few years ago, I was in your office and I asked, what is the state doing to attract businesses to California? I'm going to change that a little bit and say, what is the state now doing to retain those companies that are in California? Because I understand Apple's looking at Texas. Tesla is going to Texas. To answer the question, what is Texas doing that we should be doing?
Well, you know, this has been a discussion at the table for a long time. In '83, Willie Brown had a big meeting at the Biltmore downtown on this issue, and people were saying they were leaving, and legislators say, let them leave, there's a bunch more people coming. That was kind of always been the attitude. I was chairman of 2004 of Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation. We did a study. I was also chairman of the executive board of the Public Policy Institute in San Francisco. We did a study. One said people are leaving, the other one said they're not leaving. I'm now in the process of doing another big study to get beyond the platitudes. Because quite frankly, I'm just telling you, before you got to start, people in government generally think that nothing's going wrong, okay? And I'm of the exact opposite opinion. I'm absolutely kaplatzing about these stories. And places like Hewlett-Packard, that's part of the lifeblood of California and created Silicon Valley, it makes me go crazy, right? So I'm trying to get the data, who's leaving, what the numbers are, really a deep drill in to be able to prove the point. It's a problem. So I know you're going to look at me and say, Hertzberg, you're nuts. But the first point is I got to prove the point. It's crazy, but it's the truth. Okay. And then second, you know, I mean, it's hard because what ends up happening, I mean, it's just everybody looks at these little pockets of what their world is. What I'm trying to do, I headed up economic recovery last year on a $100 billion plan that kind of went not very well. Governor told me it's his #1 priority this year. Let's see if that happens, where we change some environmental laws on the big projects to expedite stuff being built. We take bonds that have been authorized but not issued and build some more stuff, kind of old FDR stuff to reduce some tensions on the tax stuff, which then reduces some of the anti-business stuff. But I do think that the question that was asked about the restaurants and stuff, I mean, I think that can be extended beyond much farther beyond than just restaurants. It's people are feeling like, you know, Christy mentioned it, that you know, we're treating people like crap. And I'm trying to be a voice of people that says we got to take care of businesses. So look, there's a lot of little stuff that we're trying to do. For example, you know, it's $800 minimum franchise tax fee when you start a corporation. We're trying to waive that so that it's not a big term, make it $100 or $50, waive that. We're looking at a bunch of little stuff. We'll circle back with you. Hannah, I'll get you a list of a bunch of the little stuff that doesn't make the headlines in the newspapers, but stuff that we're doing that helps businesses and start sending a message. And actually, I think we should probably put that in our Virus in the Valley, Hannah. We should talk about that. I think it's important.
Okay, thank you, Senator.
I'm on it, man. I'm really on it. That's one of my biggest priorities.
Hey, Bob, also on that same note, I know you know, but as a local real estate agent, since this pandemic has happened, at 10% on the minimum, 20% on the realistic side of my clients that I've been speaking to are talking about and actually putting their homes on the market to sell and to leave the state. So, you know, yeah, home sales are great. Home sales are very good because people want to be in a home with working in their homes. But that's a huge number of people that are literally doing what they say they're going, what they're doing. Right. So
Kathy Gressy in my neighborhood, who you introduced me to, told me the same thing. Almost every single one of her customers is leaving the state. And I asked her where are they going, what are they doing. I've talked to law firms who want to know, like, are we really doing this tax stuff? And they want to know what's going on because there's a real worry out there. For whatever reason, there's always been these discussions, but now it's different. And I think one of the biggest differences is the pandemic. People now know they can work remotely and work in a state that doesn't have the tax stuff or some of the other issues. So it's problematic, you know, but I cannot tell you how impactful this is for someone like me. It makes me really hurt.
But again, you look at the, you know, the last few ballot measures, the last few elections and the ballot measures that are on there, it's tax the property owners, it's tax on this, it's tax on that. And that's why people are leaving California.
But they all lost, Matt. They all lost. That's the difference. This election was not a lefty election. This election was down the middle. Every one of those things lost. But
I'm just saying, the legislators up in Sacramento, I know they lost because the people spoke, but right. the guys up where you work are continuing to put these bills on, thinking that they're going to be able to tax their way out of these problems. That's not the reality. Anyway, Richard's been keeps hitting me that we're out of time. So, Richard, did you want to demute and follow up with any questions? Yeah. Yourself. There you go.
Yeah. We got a lot of questions prior to the meeting about the $9 billion of fraud with the EDD, the state unemployment benefit fraud. You know, all these people cannot get paid what's owed to them, but the prisoners are defrauding the state. LA Times said estimate $9 billion, that's with a B, dollars. What is wrong with the state?
I know.
I'm the majority of the California Senate. You asked me that question, and I feel like a big, gigantic turd. I don't know. We're you know, I don't know what to tell you. It's like we're the gang that couldn't shoot straight. It's EDD, it's the vaccines. It's a problem, and we've got to fix it. And, you know, my view is throw us all out if we can't. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, it's not an unreasonable question. And, you know, I read that stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, I just like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we're doing the investigations and all the crap and all the stuff, but that's just political stuff. I can't tell you, you know, it tells you a reason, but I'm sorry. Something happened like that in your company, you're fired, buddy. Next case.
So when do you get term limited out?
I get out in November 2022. I'm gone.
2022. And where are you going from there?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the only job I'd be considered, look, here's the deal. You know me, you've known me since Pioneer Chicken. And the bottom line is I'm focused like a laser beam on my job. I ain't talking about running for crap because right now, last year was the crappiest year I've ever seen in all my years since the days of Ronald Reagan. It was an embarrassment, and to try to defend it is not defensible. Not defensible. You can argue COVID, you can argue this. Our job's to figure it out, fix it, and get it done. It was a disaster for all the wrong reasons. So we have to deliver. We got to open schools. We got to deal with this economic recovery in a way that's intelligent. We got to deal with the fires, 4 million acres. We don't get happened here, but the whole Northern California burned up, right? We got to deal with this housing issue and homelessness stuff. I don't know what the hell you do with the homeless stuff. I mean, I personally, you know, if I ran for mayor again, my theme would be nobody sleeps on the streets in LA, period. This is like a 1993 Dick Reardon moment where whoever's going to win has got to be just tough as nails and cut out the BS. But you know, the only job that I would consider is the supervisor's race if I stay in government. And I don't know, I'm 66 years old. I've been doing this for 47 years. If I did it, I would only do it if it was a Valley seat. I'm a Valley guy. I fight for the Valley. Everything I've done has been a Valley guy. If, as Bob was saying about redistricting, there's a commission. We created it. I think I'm co-author of that bill. And so if it's still a Valley seat, which hopefully, Bob, you can make it, I'll consider it. But I'm not going to go run for something that I don't represent. It's not my nature. And secondly, I'm not going to spend my time this year dancing it. I know enough people and done enough stuff in my life. They either know me or don't know me. And at the end of the year, when session's over, is when the redistricting lines will be drawn. I'll make a decision then for supervisor or not. But that's kind of what if I were to do something, that's the only place. And I got to really have a plan to be able to figure out what my deliverable is. If I can't, I'm not running just to run. I don't want to hold off size. What needs to be fixed? How am I going to get it done? Do I have a shot at it? I'll take a shot at it. If not, I go make a ton of money. I'm not worried.
Richard, before you go on to your next, Bob said something that kind of a throwaway, and there's a lot. I understood what you were talking about, but you were talking about Pioneer Chicken Days. We've known you since the Pioneer Chicken Days.
Right.
You want to tell some of the folks on the audience as far as why you made that crazy reference?
So in 1980 or 80, my dad started with this kid who was 15 years old, Rick Kaufman, a company called Pioneer Chicken back in the old days. My dad had a small piece of the company, and he was the company lawyer. He wasn't the corporate guy, only when there were big issues. And so Richard had his own firm at the time, Rosenfeld, whatever the firm was.
Shapiro, right?
Close. Yeah, you were the name of the firm.
Shapiro, Rosenfeld, close.
Yeah, that's it. And so you had the firm, and so he represented a whole bunch of franchisees that said we were ripping them off, and pretty good case. and I was representing Pioneer Chicken against Richard. I think it was 81, wasn't it, on a demur or something? That's where I met you. That's what 39 years ago. Yeah, and so he was representing all the franchisees, and I was representing the company.
Right. So let's do one final, because it was on the newsletter. Opening the schools, when are we going to get it? Other states are open, other communities in California are open. What are your thoughts?
Soon. We got $6 billion. Look, what were the issues? The issues are teachers getting tested. The issues are, you know, I've had a series of conversations with Austin where he's out there going crazy because he's been able to get testing for like $10 or something like that. I think that we put in just another $2 billion. Feds gave us $6 billion. I think it's going to happen very, very shortly. The governor sees this as a big issue. Everybody knows that petition is circulating. I don't support it to recall them, you know, but I'll tell you, it's kitchen wind. It's going to qualify in my judgment. I hate to say that, but I'm just giving you an honest answer. I'm going to fight against it. But the point is that that's such a huge issue. I think you'll see it the next 30 days or so. Parents are going crazy. Kids are getting disadvantaged. There's just nothing good about it. And we have enough money to do it for the testing and all the other pieces of it. So I think it's coming down the pike pretty quickly. The governor is really, the two things he's focused on like crazy are economic recovery and opening the schools.
Excellent.
You know,
well, with that, we'll let you go. Thank you very much for being with us this evening. And for the audience, next meeting is the third Wednesday in February.
Aren't we going to acknowledge the honorary mayor, Jules Fear?
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, I mean, I thought protocol is protocol.
He is and he was named the honorary mayor by the city council, so it's official.
I know, but it was in the 1800s.
Thanks, Bob. Just so you know, if we should decide to secede from the valley, I'm not going to vote for you as mayor.
I'll vote for you. Don't worry. No, Richard, we should have just done it. That's the bottom line. Retrospect.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bob. Good to see you.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Bye, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody.